Usually in the entrepreneurial journey, there's opportunities and challenges that come up. Was there a particular opportunity or challenge that prompted you with the idea of considering selling the business?
Well, in terms of opportunity, yeah, let me jump back to this security sector again. This thing kind of fell in our lap. We weren't looking for that kind of an opportunity. Again, we were selling cable and connectivity products, and we had this little golden nugget in the portfolio that we had over 3,000 products at the time, and it was a USB port lock. Well, two things happened. There was an incident at a government research lab. And it had to do with a breach caused due to a USB thumb drive. And so they had been putting glue in ports and things like that. They were looking for a solution, and we were out there, but we didn't really promote the product, and they found us. And it turned out to be quite a substantial deployment, which led to other deployments in that sector. And at a similar thing happened in the power industry. So it just kind of took off for us. And so it's kind of a new market, but and my personal experience kind of limits me to a degree as to how to grow a business past a certain point. So, it's kind of been growing organically, but at some point, we need to bring in someone that has some knowledge and experience that's beyond that I have. So that's what kind of prompted me to start looking, because the sector is growing and emerging, but it needs some talent that I don't have. And that was what initially sent me to at least start considering such a thing.
How did you go about researching and evaluating brokerages and marketplaces to potentially sell on?
Yeah. So as our public profile began to grow, we started to receive communications from brokerage firms from all over the country, and especially given now the time that we're in now. If we go back and reflect on just the last couple of years, it was during COVID, and there were a lot of weird things that were going on in the marketplace, and I think that there were people that were really eager to look for buy opportunities. So I started to get just really hammered during that period of time of brokers, and I have to say that's a contributing factor. And you say, why was I ready to do this? Those kinds of interactions at least bring the topic up to the top. So I looked around. I talked to several brokers, but I really wanted someone that geographically was near me. And when I discovered website closers, I realized that, Birmingham, where Justin lives, my broker, that's an hour and a half from here. So he and I could actually meet, shake hands, all of that kind of stuff. And that was important to me, was to have some sort of personal connection. So that was one factor. The other, I was trying to look for someone who had some experience, because we built most of our presence through a website, and I looked specifically for someone who had background into a buyer pool that was interested in companies that were driven through a website, and so that was a criteria. But after I talked to Justin, really, I was convinced that this was the one that I wanted to go to. He seemed to come across as straightforward, honest, sincere, and just very matter of fact. And that's what I was looking for. And then at the same time, I felt the organization behind him probably gave him the tools to be able to support the effort and to help in the outreach.
That makes total sense. I spoke with Justin ahead of time, and we've got him here with us as well. Justin Harris, how are you?
I'm doing terrific. Thanks, Nate.
So, Jeff, Justin told me that after we listed your business, he got 130 buyers that signed NDAs and started looking at the material that we create here at Website Closers, asking questions, reaching out, some of them wanting to schedule calls. Can you believe that your business would get that much attention?
I was surprised, but what really surprised me more, I like I said, I had done kind of my due diligence to try to research and find out who I thought would represent me in the best way, and I'd already concluded that, but the pace at which it happened was really surprising to me. It seemed to me that really before they could even get the material prepared to properly present it, once they just kind of cracked the door open and gave some basic info, next thing you know, there was just kind of a flood of interest. And yes, I was really surprised at that. I didn't expect it. Yeah.
Did Justin tell you how many conversations he was having, how many buyers there were?
I don't know if he told me each and every one, but I knew that was going on. And another, kind of important role that he played is kind of a filter. There was a point where it came down to a few that we engaged with, more directly and had some more serious conversations. And what Justin did is he took care of all of the sorting out which ones were going to be the ones that we should be talking to. And it didn't really impact my time in a big way. He took care of that. And then when it finally got to, the ones that we felt would be the best, then I started to engage directly with them. But Justin took care of all that other on the front end.
Yeah, he mentioned, Justin, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but had about 10 buyer-seller calls. Does that sound right?
Yep, that sounds about right.
What kind of buyers do y'all talk to? How did that go?
Yeah, from my perspective, I mean, we talked to different ones across the board. A lot of them, because in this particular case, because Jeff's done a great job of keeping, just great financial records, the tax returns and all those types of things. So it opened up, some SBA pre-qualification, which allowed for even a bigger pool. So we talked to, a pretty wide range, a few smaller PE folks, some very well qualified individual buyers, and just whittled that down to the few that we thought, who made the most sense, who were the most likely to get this thing across the finish line, and got Jeff on calls with those folks.
And Justin, I understand you guys had about 4 indications of interest or LOIs. Is that right?
Yep, we had 4 LOIs, and they were all even initially solid that we ended up, countering and really at that point, several came back agreeing to the counter just with kind of varying terms. And so at that point, then Jeff and I, our conversations really were, hey, the total price here is going to be really similar for in your pocket, but what do the terms look like? Who do you feel the most comfortable with? And then we started kind of ranking who, most likely to close based off their kind of financial strength. And so, we kind of took all those things into consideration. But the exciting part was he had really good options of full price offers to choose from.
So Jeff, knowing that Justin was communicating with over 100 people, organizing calls, negotiating on your behalf, could you or would you have wanted to do that yourself, looking back on things?
No, I wouldn't have been able to do that myself. Justin has, as I mentioned, there's some limits in growing this business due to my experiences and lack of experiences. And Justin, he crosses this bridge every day, but he crosses this bridge often, and he's very familiar with the kinds of questions and how to obtain answers for things, where to look, what to do. He's just really a kind of a steady hand, and that's very comforting for someone like me that, I've had this business for over 20 years, and you know, I don't know how to go about this process, and I felt very comfortable that you know, as I mentioned earlier, I felt that he was very genuine, and that was one of the reasons that I wanted to work with him, and I always felt that he had my best interest in mind, and I felt that he had a lot of experience that made his guidance helpful.
For many of our clients, selling their company, it's the biggest liquidity event of their lives. Was that the case for you?
Yeah, I mean, you know, life has all kind of adventures, and I've had a few. So, but given the fact that when you contribute, more than a couple of decades of your life to something, yeah, it's a big deal, and there's a lot of anxiety that's associated with it, and I think that we kind of get comfortable in the routine of life, even though it brings challenges. There are similar challenges, and as you go along, you feel like you're ready to deal with them. Well, now this new chapter is something new, and so that's always a little scary, you know. But so yeah, it's a big deal, but I've had a few of those, but it's but I'm excited about what's around the corner. And,
What does the sale of the business mean to you and your family now that it's wrapped up?
Well, it gives some security to my wife, for example, and you know, one of the contributing factors in the decision to do it has to do with age and just kind of stage of life. And when you're younger and have a little more time, if you have a setback, then you have some time to recover from it. But you reach a point where you really need to go ahead and just kind of mitigate risk in your life. And being in business is a risky thing. You don't ever know, what kinds of challenges may, be there that can affect you in a negative way. So we wanted to move towards something that was a little more secure for her, that should something happen to me, where I wasn't able to contribute as I do now, it would put her in a little bit better situation, and that was really important to me. So that, as far as how it's affected my life, I feel like kids are raised and grown, and they're launched well, and things are secure. That I feel like she'll be in good shape the rest of her life.
That's wonderful to hear. We're about to wrap up here, and on a last note, would love it for you to share some words of appreciation to Justin. And why should anyone who's watching or listening to this consider Website Closers and Justin to represent them through the M&A process?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned earlier, Justin, my initial impressions about him were true. He's been really straightforward. Just a steady hand at the wheel. He's been really good answering questions for not only for me, but also for the buyer. Post close, he's been wonderful. There've been things, advice needed and such, and he's supportive up until this moment. So I'm very thankful for that, and Justin, I really appreciate that. As for someone that was considering a broker, a lot of times you have experiences and you get across the finish line, but afterwards you don't really want to go back and work with that person again or something. I wouldn't hesitate for one moment. If I wouldn't even look or consider anyone else, I'd give Justin a call. And I hope he would still want to take me on as a client. I've tried to be good from my side as well. But
absolutely.
the thing is he's been just so awesome to hop on the call. He hopped in the car and drove, an hour and a half to come here and sit down and meet with me. And I appreciated that. And so, I really don't know what else to say other than, very appreciative of his efforts and also the organization behind him. They've been really supportive, I think, and it's just been a good experience.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Everybody, that was Jeff Clark offering his own deep insights into his exit path. And if you're considering any assistance or potentially selling your business, don't forget to visit us at websiteclosers.com for expert assistance. I'm Nate Lind, and we'll see you next time.